Hello, and welcome to another live with me, Tanya. Today, we're going to talk about why many students don't become fluent and what you can do about that so that you can become a fluent English speaker. If we haven't met before, as I said, my name is Tanya. I am the creator of our She Speaks Fluency program for women here at English Coach 3Ts. And I live here in Southern California. And if you have been here with me live for even just a little while, you may know that you will almost never see me holding a paper cup. This one's, I think, more plastic than paper. Because typically I'm having iced tea in a jar or coffee in a mug or a cup, you could say. And so, why do you think I am holding this to go cup? We could call this a to go cup. Why do you think today I'm holding this? So while you're thinking about that, I have 5 reasons that you may not be becoming fluent. And hopefully, you're going to discover the reason that you have not become fluent. Or if you feel that you are already fluent, this is great comprehensible input for you to listen to. So let me know. Hi, Lourdes. Great to see you. Lourdes is one of our regulars here. If you are joining me for the first time, let me know, or let me know where you're listening from. I always like to know where people are from. So, number 1. Now, these are not in any particular order. So, number 4 might be the most important for you, or 3, or whatever. But number 1 on my list is outdated study materials. What do I mean by that? People who are using study materials, books, or even study methods that are outdated. They were used in the past, but we have now learned they are not very effective. They don't work as well as other methods of learning. Will have a much harder time of becoming fluent. Now, does that mean you will never become fluent? Let's think about this. Let's talk about this. Many people all over the world learn English when they are in school as a child or a teenager. And many of those people come to me because they aren't fluent. In fact, they can understand a lot of what I'm saying, but they feel like they can't speak, or when they speak, they become very embarrassed or shy. It doesn't mean these people are never going to be fluent. The methods that were used in schools for children and teenagers simply don't help people to become more fluent. They're using methods of study that work for something like math, history, those types of subjects. And when I say work, they work for those subjects, I'm using that term loosely. So if it didn't work for you, I'd love to know about that. But when we are going to ride, if we want to ride a bike, for example, we want to learn how to ride a bike, studying the bicycle and all of the parts on the bicycle and what they're called and what order they go in, and being able to take apart the bike and put it back together might be helpful for some people, very few people. It's not going to help you to ride the bike. You need to get on the bicycle and try riding. You need to have all the mistakes. You maybe wobble. This is wobbling when you're riding. Maybe you are wobbling. I'll put that word in the chat here. And if you're wondering where the chat is because you're listening to the recording or even the live, it's over on this side of the screen. And there are a couple of different ways you can find that. So you can search that on your search engine. But generally speaking, on a laptop, it's pretty easy to find on this side of the screen if you make the image of me smaller. So you're riding the bicycle, it's wobbling, and you can see I have a hair that's a stray hair. The bicycle is wobbling. That's part of learning to ride a bicycle. You might even need training wheels, those little wheels that go on the side of the back wheel of your bike. There's many ways to learn how to ride a bike, and different people will learn in different ways. That is the same for learning English. And so if you're using outdated material, like a workbook, we've learned that sitting and filling out a workbook, it isn't that is no good, but it isn't the most effective way to become fluent. And if you love doing that, like I do, then use that. Do that, but don't make that the main thing you do. Make it something you do a little, and you find ways to become fluent that are going to help you to speak. All right. If you have any questions about the first one, using outdated materials, please put them in the chat or the comments so that I can help you with that. Welcome, Spain, Turkey, Germany, Brazil, Russia. We have people from all over the world, Venezuela. So if you weren't here when I asked, I said that if you've been with me long here, you know I almost never, pretty much never, have a paper or plastic cup that I'm drinking from. So why do you think I'm drinking from this class today? Tell me, or from this cup today. Tell me in the chat, why do you think I'm using this to-go cup? You can call this a to-go cup for my coffee this morning. I know that I have at least one person who is a listener, a follower here who knows. That's a hint. Okay, number two. The number two reason, or another reason, but it's two on my list, that you may not be fluent in English is that you're focusing too much on one of the four fluency skills: reading, writing, speaking, and listening. So while I have a belief that it's really good to focus on one a lot in the beginning, which is listening to things you can understand, it doesn't mean you only do that or even mostly do that for the whole journey of becoming fluent. There are going to be times when you need to read, write, speak, and listen in your journey to becoming fluent. Let me tell you a little bit about why that is so important, because these four skills, let's say we have four like this, work together. And if you only have two, of course, that isn't as strong as if you have four skills. It will be stronger. Reading helps you to build your vocabulary and understand grammar. Speaking helps you to connect with other people, which is so important. The whole idea of having any language is that we communicate and connect with other people. And the other skills, listening, helps us to hear the sounds of the language so that we can have better pronunciation. In fact, if you feel that you need help with your pronunciation and you don't have a teacher right now, listen to things with more intent. In other words, it's okay to listen and do the dishes or drive in your car. In fact, I do this a lot in my second language. However, if you're working on pronunciation, sit down and close your eyes so that you're focusing on listening, and listen with intent. Listen to the sounds. You make the sound. Listen to the sound. Is it the same? You can do a lot to improve your pronunciation in this way. And it may be that you need help from someone who is fluent or a teacher, and that's okay too. There's a lot of good material online that can help you with that. Just remember that out of all of these 5 reasons that I'm sharing with you today, each of them could be a little different for each of you. You are all different people. And just like people dress differently and do everything differently, we all learn in a different, unique way that is special for us. Now, there are some ways that work really well for a lot of people, and there are some ways that don't work very well for a lot of people. And you need to find your combination of that. So that's one of the focuses here on English Coach 3T is to help you find what works best for you. All right, I'm going to look at the comments to see if there's any questions or any guesses on why I'm using this to-go cup. Let's see. One person says, I think your name is Is Arslan, says you might have bought it from out. I did go out and buy this, but I almost never buy coffee out. Why do you think I bought a coffee out of my house? Abbas Ali says, I actually like your way of speech. It's easy to understand because you don't have an accent. Sorry. Abbas, I do have an accent. We all have an accent. I have a middle American accent. Some people call it a neutral accent. I used to also think I had no accent. But of course, we all have an accent. Why do I keep saying accent? And this is a misunderstanding that I think also keeps us from being fluent, thinking that our accent is bad. This is a bonus for you. Your accent is not bad. Your accent is actually beautiful. Whatever your accent is, it tells me something about you and your journey, which I think is a beautiful thing. The more important thing is, do you have pronunciation that people can understand? Do you speak clearly? These are much more important than accent. Okay. Welcome from Oregon. Are you an immigrant? Are you visiting in Oregon? Are you a native speaker? Okay. Abbas says, I watch your videos more than 3 hours every day. Wow. Not only watching, but also imitating your accent. This is a fabulous way to learn, and it will help you to become fluent. Farabor says you can create a fun flower pot out of the plastic cup. Flower pots is something I talked about recently. I could do that. I will probably find a way to reuse this cup, because this one of the reasons I almost never use a plastic or paper cup like this is because it's so bad for the environment. So I'll try to find a place to reuse it. Maybe you'll be outside and pay a coffee. Yes, I was out and I bought a coffee out. Why do you think I bought a coffee out, though? I almost never buy a coffee out. Do you need the cup for your next journey? This is a great question. I love how you all are thinking about this and forming questions. You are working on your fluency right now because you're listening and you are putting comments in the chat or the comment section. And this is input and output, which is so important, hugely important. Maybe a friend was paying for you. You're very close. You're very close. I will tell you, a friend did offer to pay for my coffee. The same friend actually paid for something else during yesterday's visit. And so I offered to pay for the coffee. Welcome, Africa. Maybe you were in a rush. This is such a great guess. Maybe you were in a hurry, and that is why you got a cup, a to-go cup. Close, very close, very close. We've almost guessed it. We've almost guessed it. I'm going to tell you number 3. Keep guessing. So number 3, reason why people don't become fluent in English is their mindset, the way that they think. And before you say, oh, that's hogwash. This is an interesting word. That's hogwash. That's hogwash. The whole phrase, that's hogwash, is a phrase we use to say that is definitely not true. And also, it's a little bit stupid. or ridiculous. That's hogwash. Before you say that, let me tell you what I mean by mindset. Let's go back to the analogy I was using of riding a bicycle. There are many people who don't learn to ride a bicycle either. And one of the reasons is they think, I can't learn to ride a bicycle. And so if you think you can't learn to ride a bicycle, you're probably not going to try. Or if you do try, you're not going to try very hard. Maybe you simply don't want to. This is also another reason, but that could be a whole video. But if you think you can't, you probably won't. And if somebody is forcing you or pressuring you to learn, that makes it even more difficult. And that is a part of mindset. But also, another part of mindset is thinking, I can become fluent in 30 days or 90 days or whatever you have learned online, on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok, wherever you listen. There are lots of people saying, I became fluent in 30 days. And this is hogwash. They did not become fluent in 30 days. Now, they may have learned a lot in 30 days. If you're working on your fluency and speaking and listening 8, 10, 12 hours a day, like it's your job, you can learn a lot in 30 days and you can have a lot of conversations in 30 days. Now, is that fluent? That brings me to the third thing about mindset. What you think is fluency might be stopping you from becoming fluent. So, what you think, your mindset about what fluency is, could be causing a problem. So, we really have to think about what fluency is and keep in mind that fluency might be different for you than someone else. And what somebody else thinks about your fluency really doesn't matter very much. If it's your boss or getting a job, yes, that matters. However, what you need to become fluent is different from other people. And here's another problem with jobs and education systems. Often they need to give tests to decide who to hire or who to let into their school. But the test isn't really telling you if you're fluent. So if you need to take a test, you probably need to learn how to take that kind of test. And don't think of that as your fluency. Will you learn something from that? Yes. Could it help you to become more fluent? It's possible. However, your fluency isn't tested by a machine or a paper test. Your fluency is something different, and that is a big, big subject. So we will probably, I have talked about that in many of my videos. If you're a regular here, you've heard some other things I've said about that, but I want you to start thinking about it because it's very important for us to realize I want to work towards what I think of as fluent, and I want to find out a way that works or is effective for me. This is very, very important. And one of, if not the very most important reason that I created the She Speaks Fluency program for women, because many people are being told that the way to get to fluency is this one way, and fluency is this one thing, and that is hogwash. That's a word I used earlier that I don't use over and over like this, but I want you to learn this word so that you have it. You don't have to use it. That is just not the truth. That is just not the truth. And so I created my She Speaks Fluency program for women. Why women? My ultimate goal is to have a We Speaks Fluency program for men and women. And there are lots of programs for men and women. There are very few programs for women where women will feel safe, like the way that they learn is important, and like they can be a part of a group that supports them. This is so important for everyone. And so that is one of the things I've created in the She Speaks program, along with all of the things you need so that you not only know what you need to become fluent, you have the resources, you have people to talk to, you have places where you can ask me questions anytime, that kind of thing. So if you're interested and you want to be on the wait list for our She Speaks Fluency program, I'm going to leave the link below so that you can sign up and get on that list. And while you're waiting for me to open the doors for She Speaks, I'll be sending you some emails to help you to get more information on how you can become fluent. All right. Our number 4 reason, not in any particular order, but today it's number 4, is reason why people don't become fluent is they quit. They stop. This is probably the number 1 reason overall. However, I think that most people don't take this into consideration because they're thinking, I'm studying, and it's not working, which is why I put number 1 on my list as number 1 on my list so that you could think about that as well. But a really important thing is to learn how to take a pause instead of quitting. And you might say, I haven't quit. But if you're like me, there might be times when you didn't do what you needed to do. I've had times like this in my language learning journey towards Spanish. And I have to say, I've been really struggling with that with German, which is my most recent language I've started. It is really hard for me to find comprehensible input materials for learning German. There's quite a bit available for English and Spanish, but there's very little good content for German learners at a basic total beginner level. And so that has been frustrating for me. And if it's frustrating for you to find the materials you need, which as English learners is generally somebody to talk to, I do have another video that I'll put in the description below on ways you can practice speaking, how to improve your speaking. But when we get frustrated or stressed out, we often don't continue. Or if we do continue, we slow down so much it's not effective. And so knowing where you can find the resources you need is really, really important. Someone said earlier they're listening to my videos 3 hours a day. That is fabulous. And I love it that you're here listening with me and interacting with me. And there's a lot of great material on YouTube. I think YouTube is one of the best platforms for you to learn English. And so if you do need to quit or stop or take a pause, learn to start again. Learn how can you start again, which is another thing we talk about in the She Speaks program. And it's so important. Make a plan for yourself so that you will start again, because sometimes we do need to pause. Sometimes we do need to take a break. And you'll often hear me talk about working breaks into your plan. And so that brings me to number 5. A lot of people don't know what to do to become fluent. They don't have a plan, and they don't know what to do and how much to do it and when to do it and all of those kinds of things. And so it is very difficult to become fluent if you don't know how to do it, if you don't have a plan that works for you. And many people have been told a lie about what will help them to become fluent. Now, these people maybe didn't mean to lie. Maybe that was all they knew is what they taught you. Maybe it was something they said because it worked for them, so they thought it worked for everyone. And that brings me to my last point. And I want to see if anybody guessed why. Okay, let's see. Why am I using this cup? I thank you for all the kind comments. Lourdes, great guess. You got it in a hospital. It does look like a hospital cup. However, I didn't get this one in a hospital. Maybe you wanted to try a different flavor. Very good guess. Pardon me, not the reason, but I love flavored coffee. You wanted a new experience? That could be. Okay. I am not seeing you don't have environment for speaking English. Don't have environment for speak. Yes, that could be a reason why you don't become fluent. Okay. You were getting a coffee at an event. Another great guess. The reason that I purchased this coffee in a to-go cup is because I was visiting a friend at Fisherman's Village in LA, far away from my house, and I didn't plan to drink coffee. This was a long drive, not very long for me. For me, not a long drive, but in the United States, we usually are willing to drive a far distance because the country is so big, we're used to it. But it wasn't close enough to my house to go back and get coffee, and I hadn't planned to have coffee. This is the biggest reason. I didn't plan to have coffee, but I wanted to spend time with my friend having coffee, which is something I really enjoy doing. And so we got a coffee in a to-go cup. We can call this a to-go cup. All right. Which of the 5 things I told you today are something that you think you could know more about, or you would like to know more about, or you think it's the thing that keeps you from becoming fluent? Which of the 5 things I said to you today, let me tell you what they are again. Number 1, outdated study material, using methods or things that don't work anymore. Number 2, focusing too much on one of the 4 skills: reading, writing, speaking, and listening. Number 3, your mindset, how you think, thinking I can't do it, or I'm not good enough, or I can do this in a lot less time than it really takes. Having a thought that just is not working for you. Number 4, quitting or almost stopping or taking a pause that is just so long. Now you are having to work really hard to get going again. Number 5, you don't know what to do. You're not sure if what you're doing is working. You're not sure if this is a good thing or that is a good thing. And the bonus on this one is many people have been told this is the way to become fluent, and they think that's the only way. Did you ever think this, or do you think this now? This is something that will keep you from becoming fluent because, of course, there's more than one way to become fluent. And even students who are using the same method, the method I really enjoy for me is comprehensible input. That's why I teach a lot about it here. But there are other methods that can work and you can use with your comprehensible input method. Okay, I've gone on a long time today because this is a very, very important topic. And if you are the person who needs a plan, you need to find what works for you, then I'm going to put the video I made live last week over here as soon as YouTube will let me, and I will link it below so that you can find my video, how to decide what English study plan will work for you. And I hope that I will see you this coming Wednesday or next Monday live here for another live comprehensible input lesson with me. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you soon.